Hey guys, what's going on? So in this video I'm going to talk about something that's become very popular, and that is mobility. And as you can see in the title of the video, I'm going to discuss my opinion on whether or not I think you can overdo mobility. So a lot of YouTube fitness channels are putting out some great content, some great drills and techniques that you can do to kind of free up tight areas in your body and mobilize certain joints, which I think is great. I'm 100% for that. But to answer the question, can you overdo mobility? I'm going to have to say the answer is to some extent yes. There is a gray area, and there are, of course, certain circumstances, but to answer the sole question of can you overdo mobility, I'm going to say yes, you can. And just a disclaimer, this is only for about maybe 5% of the population. That's just a random number I'm throwing out there, because 95% of people need to do mobility. They need to do stretching just to free up those muscles and give some relief to the stress that they put on their joints from constant exercise. And even if they're runners, whatever kind of athlete they are, they need to be doing some kind of flexibility and mobility work. But this is probably only for about 5% of people that I'm going to say that yes, you can overdo mobility. So the first reason why I think someone can overdo mobility is if they're doing it for too long of a period of time, and it actually cuts into the workout. Now, you're free to do mobility as much as you like outside of the workout, maybe for an hour a day. I still think that might be a little bit too excessive, but it varies on a case-by-case basis. But I think if you're about to work out, you want to do a certain amount of mobility, and there has to be a good amount of balance, because you don't want to wear yourself out mentally and physically before you're about to actually do the workout. So reason number two of why I think you can overdo mobility has something to do with balance. So in your muscles, in your joints, you want a certain amount of stability and you want a certain amount of mobility. So let's take, for example, the rotator cuff, the shoulder kind of complex, this whole area over here, even the scapula. You want there to be a certain amount of mobility so you can externally rotate and go into full flexion, and you don't want to have that internally rotated posture. But at the same time, you don't want your rotator cuff muscles and your deltoid muscles to be extremely mobile, because you want there to be stability. If let's say you're a thrower, you want to be able to throw the ball, but you also want to, if you're throwing the ball, you don't want to overextend. And I think that's where you kind of get into the line of being over mobile. You want these muscles to be able to move properly in all ranges of motion, but you also want there to be strength associated within each range and each plane of motion. And not just talking about the shoulder joint, even the hip joint, you want there to be, the muscles surrounding the hip, you want them to be tight, but you also want them to move. When you walk, you want them to, it's something that's called pelvic obliquity, and basically your ilium and your ischium just kind of rotate and move freely. So you want them to be able to move, but you also want them to be stable enough to the point of, if you have a fall or if you're walking on like uneven surfaces, you don't slip and jerk and strain a muscle or hurt a tendon or some kind of soft tissue in that area. And that's one of the reasons why I think yoga is awesome, and I personally need to do more yoga myself, and I think a lot of people need to do some sort of yoga, even if it's one time a week, because it combines a perfect balance of stability and strength. You think about different yoga, various yoga positions, you're holding these pretty tough positions at awkward and positions that your body isn't used to being in, and you're holding them, and you're also working on your flexibility and your mobility within these positions, so you can kind of work on the tiny muscles and the structures within your body and function together as a whole, as a unit. So reason number three, it doesn't really apply to maybe 99% of people, but it's a term that's called hypermobility. So if you're hypermobile, that means that you have too much motion within the joint, and oftentimes if you have too much motion, this can lead to injuries. It's also kind of a genetic, hereditary condition to be hypermobile, so it's some of the things that can kind of alleviate the symptoms or prevent injury is to do exercise and corrective exercises to improve the musculature stability around the joint that's hypermobile. So those are three quick reasons why I think someone's capable of overdoing mobility. Once again, it doesn't apply to 95% of people. I'm going to say most people will benefit from doing some sort of mobility work. Feel free to leave a comment. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I welcome any kind of constructive feedback and constructive arguments, so to speak. So I think the takeaway point here is just to find the right balance between mobility and strengthening, and kind of fuse them together, and hopefully doing both you can benefit in your performance in the gym will improve, and as an athlete will improve overall. So that's going to wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a comment and leave a thumbs up if you enjoy this informational style of video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.